goes. Never mind, that's out the window now. It's his usual story with Paul. So if you guys don't know who we are YouTubers first and foremost, who then decided to set up a podcast, and we've just become almost more well known for the podcast now than anything else.
Intolerable, people like.
Intolerable is a word.
Yeah.
It's a word.
So the reason for setting this podcast up was kind of, we know that detailers out there are, sort of doing 8-hour shifts, 10-hour shifts, polishing cars. They're sat in units. It's a really lonely business, and it was kind of to reach out to you guys and ladies that are doing this as a hobby, or you're turning pro. And we know that not everyone's got access to YouTube all day. You can't sit there polishing a car, watching us idiots on YouTube. So that's kind of why it was born. And the feedback we get from you guys is incredible. It's really been humbling. The show for us this year, last time we came in 2019 was just as visitors. We're walking around just like saying hi to people. This year's completely different, and next year's going to be even bigger and better, we hope. So the feedback we get is people listen to the podcast, it helps them get through the day. Many issues about mental health, because we know that it's a big thing in detail. I know it's a bit of a subject. We've sort of covered it on a lot of platforms, but this is why we kind of do it, and you guys sort of spur us on. And the humour thing isn't to kind of break your day up. It is off the cuff, nothing. It's not really planned, is it? It kind of is. It's kind of planned.
The planning that we have is mostly I type some notes into my phone and say this is roughly what we're going to talk about, but we don't have a script. Nothing is ever scripted, because it's more fun that way. It would be a really boring podcast if it was just me sitting there talking about detailing products. You'd get really bored. So Paul supports me by throwing in something random, stupid, different, interesting.
Like sponsorships, like this.
Like sponsorships. I'm sure there's actually a sponsorship for
There is.
this.
Yeah, it's a media-based sponsorship. This is Third Leg Productions. So it's a new company. I've set this up. I don't exactly know how far it's going to go, but you know the ones, the intros, they're just off the cuff. He doesn't know what I'm going to say. So when you've got your earbuds in, stand by, because most weeks it's just a last-minute thing. And a lot of it is locally based, because I live on an island. So there is some very odd games that go on the island. Some are real, some aren't. It's a very close-knit community, so that's where those ideas come from. But he literally doesn't know what I'm going to say. And then I don't know what he's going to say. So nothing is really planned apart from the topics and the DMs we get from you guys via Instagram or Facebook. So that's where that idea comes from. It's just off the cuff. If we plan it, it will just go to pot.
That's the thing, like, we didn't even plan that was going to be a thing. We didn't have that in mind at all. Paul never said to me, should I do this? He just started doing it one day. And that's what makes it so interesting, so different, is because it's not purely informational. Yes, there's a lot of information in it, there's a lot we want to talk about with it, but a lot of it is also to just break up the monotony of the topic to a certain extent. Sometimes it gets too much, so we like to throw in a humorous anecdote or a mid-show rant.
That's what, the mid-show rant.
They're always very popular.
It's because I'm old and grumpy. I'm 51 years old, so I get old and grumpy, and I do get old and grumpy about old and grumpy people, because I live on an island and 90% of the islanders are old, including myself. And it does wind me up, especially a local co-op. So I think we can get some questions, can't we?
This is the whole idea of this is that we try to engage with the community as much as possible, whether it's on social media, whether it's on just through the podcast itself. We're really massive supporters of the industry, so we want the community to get involved with it. If there are ever any questions you guys have got, give us a shout. Let us know you've got a question, because we're here to share everything, not just from the podcast point of view, but while we're here as well.
Get them to put their hands up like we did when you were in maths. Not me personally, because I'm thick.
You didn't read maths. So if you've ever got a question, just stick your hand, and we're happy to answer any questions. As far as how popular the podcast has been, or just podcasting in general, not so much specifically ours, but podcasting in the detailing scene has come on. It's been such a popular thing now. It didn't used to really exist much, and let's be honest, podcasts for detailing, it's a kind of a niche product. It's a niche thing. So it's not for everyone. It's not something that my missus would ever tune into. But if you are into the detailing scene, it's something that, as Paul said, gives you an opportunity to pick up that engagement elsewhere when you're doing other things.
Name drop coming in. We were talking to Jim White earlier. Yeah, Jim White actually listens to us. Hard to believe.
Stunned.
Yeah, very humbled and stunned. And he was saying it'd be the last thing you want to listen to is detailing, because it's like a busman's holiday. You're doing this 7 days a week, some of you. You're working weekends, you're working into the night. But he finds it quite cathartic and obviously humorous, and that's what we're there for. We use a kind of like a little kind word in your ear to get you through the day, to get you through your work, because it is a lonely industry. I don't do it full time.
You're such a good friend.
I'm actually a welder full time.
I wish everybody had a
work
friend
on the
like you,
railways, hence why I always look like crap. I've got bags under my eyes because I'm like a bat. I'm basically new joints.
You've got a face for radio.
I've got a face. We've both got faces for radio. You've got a figure for radio as well. Come on, let's be honest.
Come on.
This is sculpted. There's a lot of money goes into this. There's a lot of Guinness, a lot of kebabs.
I know. I was there for the Guinness last night.
Yes, you were. Yeah. While we're here, can I just thank, as a group of people over here, I want to thank, and they've come all the way from, I have to say Northern Ireland.
You have to say Northern
I have to
Ireland,
say
yes.
Northern. We've got C. Vicky over there, we've got Abigail over there. We've also got...
I love how
call
they're
him-
not paying attention right
I
now
call him
at all.
Shiny, I can't remember his name, so I call him Shiny Carrot Detailing. It's actually Shiny Chariot. He's over there. We've got Gloss JDM, he's filming as well. I'd like to say big thanks to everyone that's come up and spoke to us today. We're still going to be here right to the end of the day. They're going to chuck us out with security guards. We'll be here right to the end. So
Yeah, it's been crazy how many people have come over and spoken to us more about the podcast and the channel. It's been fantastic and we've been handing out the stickers to everyone who mentions podcast. You get a sticker, so if you come and say, I listen to your podcast, you get a free sticker.
most of them have stumbled across the podcast trying to find a shipping forecast. I don't think they actually intentionally want to find it. If you want to find the podcast, by the way, this is where I'm going to plug. Really,
Plug
I'm going to
away.
be plugged in. It's on Spotify, Anchor. I said Anchor FM. It's on Anchor FM. What else is it on?
Just probably a whole load of list of others that I.
Probably find it on the end of the arc. JML. Find it at the end of the arc. JML are doing it.
Next to the batteries.
Special, yeah. Next to the batteries, yeah.
That's the usual story for us. We do this. Actually, some people might not know this. We don't make a single penny from the podcast because we didn't ever set out to make money from it. This is something that not many people know at all.
Can you repeat that? Can you just repeat that we don't make any money out of it?
Yeah, well, that's-
Shout it across the hall.
I think Vicky said she was going to sponsor
We
an
are
episode.
looking for sponsors for hopefully the future. Oh yeah, Raise, yeah. Okay.
Everything we've done with the podcast so far has come out of our own pocket. It's come from the money from YouTube and so on.
Yeah.
And we just did it because it was something that we could give as an alternative. So we pay for everything. Everything that we use is we've paid out all this. And it's not a big expensive setup. If you want to do a podcast yourself, you can do it just literally with a phone. Or you could get a couple of microphones, not plugged into anything or working, and record them on a MacBook microphone. Like,
It works.
yeah, well, yes, it
Fine.
did work. But that, so you can have very little knowledge and still put out product. That's the whole idea about it. So we've upped our game over time.
Yeah,
We started out cheap.
I have to say that the guy that's behind all this, I'm only the co-host, but the guy that does all the tech stuff is this guy, Specky. So I don't have anything to do with the editing. He's the one that edits it. I just turn up, we hit record, we don't script it, we just go. We go for it. It's a conversation between two friends that are passionate about the hobby. So obviously sometimes we do get guests on, people like Vicky over there and Abigail who have no idea about audio quality. We do get brands on as well. We've had Alan on who's filming down there. There he is. And we are looking at getting more brands on in the future and more like-minded individuals. If anyone wants to come on the podcast, come and see us. Come and see us after this. Let us know what you want to do. We're always open to suggestions as well.
We were walking around the show floor this very morning, recording the next episode of the podcast. Well, it's the next one after the next one. But yeah, we actually walked around today, and that's the kind of thing.
It's record, didn't you?
Like, we're in, I'm known for not pressing it like 4 times. I've not pressed record or something. Last one was actually with Vicky and Abby. But yeah, these things happen. There have been times. Remember the Garage Therapy one?
Yes, I do. Yes, not everything goes according to plan. So we had the Garage Therapy guys on, Maz and his imaginary friend Roger. If you want to see his imaginary friend, he is actually over there. He's real.
He's a real one.
He's not a cardboard cutout. So we had these guys on. We did the intro, and then we decided to get into the conversation about how Garage Therapy was born, and then round about 25-minute mark,
At least a good half hour.
someone hadn't pressed record. So then we had to revisit those conversations, and I was waiting to go to work. I get like an hour before I go to work to do this, and I'm sat in the garage just going, really? Let's go for it. Let's take 2. This stuff happens, so it doesn't always run that smoothly, but 9 times out of 10, it's off the cuff. I say, he doesn't know what I'm going to say. We just do it.
Yeah, so we have general ideas about what we're going to talk about, but there are times when we will have a plan in mind, and we will try and stick to that plan right up until the day we're recording, and then something happens in the industry, something goes on, a big piece of news,
yeah.
something that's going on with a person, a brand, whatever's going on, and we suddenly have to drop everything, think on our feet, and say, right, no, that's not happening today. We need to talk about this thing right now. It's important this gets out there. And then again, it's a case of wing it. But because Paul and I are on a very similar wavelength for how we think, it's very yes, that part of it. We think very similarly. So Paul is able to pick up on where I'm not doing something. He can jump in and pull something else out of it, and vice versa. Paul's very versatile when it comes to that, and when it comes to the humour, because I've never found myself to be a particularly funny or humorous person. I think I'm funny, but in real life I know I'm not actually that funny. And then Paul comes along and cracks me up, and the guests.
I think a lot of that is because of everyday life. I'm a big sort of, I observe, I'm one of those observational guys, so if I see something funny, so I can take things from work, which is a very serious industry, I mean it's very dangerous, and I can turn that around to humour. It's how I get through life, because life is serious, and this is a chance to have a bit of a relax and to get you guys involved. We're actually talking to you in your ears, you've got your earbuds in, and you're doing that monotonous task. Maybe you're doing a ceramic coat, you're doing like 8 hours of machine polishing, and we're there really just to cheer you up. Yes, part of it is serious, part of it is, informative, but the rest is kind of like humour. And I hope, hope you listen to it and you get something out of it. We're not everyone. Oh, hello. Technical hitch. There we go.
What a surprise, you in technology.
Well, listen, stop it completely.
Well, no, there's a difference. I didn't stop it. I just
How are we doing
didn't
on
start
time
it.
anyway? How are we doing on time?
No, we're doing all right. We're going to have the Speed 6 guys are going to be taking over from us. They're going to be joining us here in just over 10 minutes as well. And that's interesting to hear the difference. The Speed 6 guys are vastly different to how we put out our content, and that goes to show just in the way that YouTube is different. Paul puts out different content to me. He's got his own specific style. He may make videos in a way that really connects with you, and you think, I like this guy, I like his sense of humor, I like his way of doing it. And then you come onto my channel and you think, no, that's maybe not for me. I don't understand a word he's saying because he's Scottish. And that's happened. That's certainly happened. I've had people say, in fact, when I first started, there was a guy, and I was expecting him to be here today, but he didn't turn up, who used to make fun of the fact that every time I put out a video, he would show a photo of him watching my video on TV with the subtitles on.
We love the subtitles, we love them. I've never read them, I've only got your ones, I don't want to read mine.
Oh.
I can barely speak English, I'm from Essex.
Yeah, but honestly, that was kind of one of these running jokes for a long time was, Specky can't actually speak English, I have to switch on the subtitles. It's like, you're English, it's not that far apart. But that's the way it is. It's, everyone has their own specific style, and whatever clicks with you, that's great. You subscribe to your thing, and it's the same with the podcasts. Paul and I have our particular style about how we approach topics, about our humour and things like that. And then the Speed 6 guys are completely different to us again, but again, they have a certain style that connects with certain people. And it's not going to be that we can make something that's going to appeal to everyone. Someone's going to come along and say, Paul, your humour is far too crass.
They have done.
Yeah, many times.
I am actually, this is true. So we have a guy called First from Puerto Rico, Alberto, you might know him, you probably see him in the comment section if you're on Instagram. Apparently I'm known as the bald, tall Benny Hill in Puerto Rico. So apparently I'm this guy from Essex, gone all the way to Puerto Rico. I told my wife this once she picked herself up off the floor laughing. She said, "That's not real, is it?" I said, "Yes, it is." I'm going to get a T-shirt with that on. So yeah, I am the
It's the first lineup of merch that's coming out for the podcast.
Yeah, so I'm known as the Benny Hill. I have been criticised for my humour being far too 1970s. I get it from Carry On films and the good old days. So part of it is mildly not PC. I do try to watch my P's and Q's, but it's just a bit of a laugh. Don't take it too seriously.
That's why I have to exercise a lot of editorial restraint.
A lot of beeps.
Because I can't trust. This is the thing. Paul's actually better with technology than he lets on. But I wouldn't ever trust Paul with actually editing the podcast because it would make him laugh and he would leave bits in. He'd say, I said this, that's staying. Whereas I would listen to it and say, we're not keeping that. That's not a thing, we're not doing that. So, sometimes we have to leave things and we'll bleep them. We have to have a certain amount of restraint. It's not exactly something we want to say is don't listen to this in the car with your family because we don't want to be known as that kind of podcast. So we want to make it accessible to most people. So there is a little bit of humour in there that does get a little bit close, especially your sponsors.
Especially my sponsors, yeah. Unfortunately, there was going to be another one here, and there was going to be a game, but I'll leave the game for the next podcast because that is very, very sexist.
Kayak or CAC was my absolute favourite.
I'm bringing it. We got Mersey Regatta this year. I'm actually going to do this. For those of you who haven't listened to this podcast, there is a game called Kayak or CAC.
It's easy for you to say.
Yes, very easy for me to say. This is based on where I live in Mersey Island, so it's a fishing village. So most people on a Friday night, they all pile out the pub. I've devised a game where you go out in a kayak and men and women, got to keep it fair, and the people on the beach have to bet whether you're wearing underwear or not when you get up out the kayak. Fantastic game. I think it's going to do really, really well. I'm thinking about bringing it into the Olympics. I think it'll go really, really well. There is some sort of there's a back story to this because we have the regatta every year, and there is a slippery. No, I shouldn't be saying this, but there is a slippery pole competition. It's not what you think. It's actually a slippery pole on a boat, and you have to go out and you get a leg of lamb if you get the stick on the end. And I've done it, and I ended up head first in the mud. I don't advise it. There is backwards rowing competitions with a bag over your head. So a lot of these stories are kind of like semi-true. Don't believe all of them, most of them. So yeah, that's where that idea comes from.
I think this is the thing is this. I can never tell what Paul's just explained there. I don't know if any of that is true, but that's not. It doesn't matter because it's entertaining.
It's kind of stretched.
But it doesn't matter. That's the whole idea. So I was talking to my missus about this recently, and she said, "You don't give yourself enough credit for the podcast. You're the one that came up with the idea. You're the one that pushed for this. You're the one that does all the work in the editing." And I felt like she was undermining Paul's role in this, and she wasn't. But
I think what she was trying to say is I'm shit.
But that's the thing is it's not true. So I was defending you staunchly, and I said this podcast wouldn't be what it is without Paul. I need him to bounce off of. I need him to inject that little bit of humour. I need him to help me get through what could be a really, really boring subject. It is possible, it happens, that there's going to be something, like a recent video where I talked about panel impact ratios. Really awesome, sexy topic, that one. But if I talk about that with Paul injects humour into it, and then it's no longer a boring listen of, this is how you get measure this. No, none of that, because Paul lifts it up. If there was no Paul, there would be no podcast. It doesn't matter if there's no me. If there's no me, there's still going to be no podcast because Paul doesn't know how to work a PC. But
Still.
Still, yeah. Well, you know, you used to edit your videos in like Windows Movie Maker
Yeah,
to live show.
I did, yeah.
You
And got away with it until you rumbled it.
Actually, it's true. You actually did a really good job with that. What's funny was I tried using it and I couldn't.
It takes a master brain to do that. You can use Windows Movie Maker. If anyone remembers that, that's just like, you know, that's
2010.
yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, old school. But this is it. So if there was no Paul, there would be no podcast because he doesn't understand the technology. If there was no me, but if there was no Paul, there wouldn't be anyone to bounce off of. And there are very few people that I could ever imagine running the podcast.
I don't even know anybody that stupid.
I don't know. There's a couple. There's a couple. I'm not looking at anyone in particular, but there's a couple. But it's amazing. We've been stopped so many times today and just told about the fact that we're talking about some topics that, as Paul said, are a little bit taboo. Mental health. It's something that we actually received a few messages recently from people who said that they were in a pretty bad place.
Pretty moving messages. I've got to admit. I showed my wife the messages, and they were pretty heartfelt. Guys reach out to us. We've got lorry drivers, which you know is a very solitary occupation. We'll DM us, they'll send us messages on Instagram saying, you know, you've really lifted me. There's people that have been, we've had war vets, we've had all sorts, haven't we?
Yeah, people with addiction issues and depression and all sorts. And we're not afraid to talk about these things. They are serious topics. So we have definitely a very serious side to it. So it's not all about, you know, the naughty words and using the bleep machine all the time. That's part of it, but it's used sparingly, you know, in a way that's not going to upset too many people. It's got to be a little bit of something that's relatable, but we talk about the difficult topics, but we try not to make them too heavy in a way. You know, we try to lighten the situation because we want people to still enjoy what they're listening to.
Also, we keep it quite topical, so there's been like a mini tornado. We're obsessed by the weather. Brits are obsessed by the weather, and we had an incident. It was headline news where our local co-op, one of the baked bean cans, had turned around. The label was facing the other way. Storm damage. Made the headlines. So we're trying to keep it topical.
It's true, and again, these are these little stories, these little anecdotes that I don't think I know anyone else who would be able to come up with things like this. Paul's a very, very unique person, and I would be completely lost doing this podcast without him. You know, I could have other friends.
That's one word for it. I've been called other things, but that's one word for it.
Well, it's usually me that calls them as well.
Yeah.
But Paul and I, we're separated by many hundreds of miles, and this is actually only the second time we've met in person, which is
probably the last, to be honest with you, because you're an absolute disgrace to go out with. I don't drink. You know that.
Well, the way you held it last night, you behaved like you didn't drink.
And the drink. Yes, I held it well.
You did.
I did. That's between me and Gary. That goes no further.
This is what I mean. This is the whole idea of it. So yeah. So if anybody has any questions before we bring up the Speed 6 guys, please stick your hand up or come forward or something. Any questions at all? If you don't worry about it.
He put his hand up. He definitely put his hand on. He's picking his nose. I'm sorry.
No, that was a piece of something.
He's eating a sandwich.
But we just want to say thanks to everyone who has.
Hey, look, they've got a question over there. Look.
Oh, there's a question. Yeah, right. No,
that woman over there with the beard.
I'm looking.
There.
Harsh. Come on. Give us a question, young man.
Is there a sponsor for this thing?
This particular
there
thing
was.
here.
Yeah, Third Leg Productions.
But you're going to go into a bit more. What is Third Leg Productions? This is where you have to think on your feet because I don't think you thought ahead of this enough.
I'm bringing back VHS Blue Movies. I think they're going to make a comeback, and I think Third Leg Productions they're the way forward. We're not going to bother with. We might even do Betamax. Top loaders, they're coming back.
You're really talking to the old school there.
We need a fork truck to put it in the lounge. I'm going to bring them back.
All the young people are going to be saying VH what? You mean VH1, the channel?
I'm still thinking about doing Vindacool. The gel-filled underpants after the Vindaloo. The solar-powered.
The solar-powered gel-filled underpants for your morning after.
The morning after a curry. I'm bringing it.
The solar panels that obviously would be covered up if you were wearing trousers.
Yeah. I said.
No, but we actually talked to someone earlier. This was interesting. We talked to someone yesterday about one of Paul's inventions, which actually could be a thing. And you guys are going to tell us if you agree with us. One of Paul's ideas was, it's called I'm Filthy.
Oh yes.
It's not because Paul's filthy.
Well, it is.
Well, he is. But this was an epic idea. So let's say you've just washed your car just the other day. It's still sitting out in the driveway looking really nice, but you bought yourself a new product that you want to try on it. All right, you bought a wax, you bought a sealant, you bought something, but you can't justify to your other half, I've got to go and wash the car again. She'll say, you just did it the other day. Aha! So this is where I'm Filthy comes in. It is a sprayable dirt solution.
It's sprayable dirt, yeah. It's made out of recycled. It's made out of the contents of recycled poo bins, which were tested, and it's strong. It needs 1 to 10. That's all we need. Spray it in your, it's basically shite. Spray it in your car. Spray it in your car. Your missus will come out and say, "You only washed that yesterday." And you're thinking, "Well, I want to try a new LSP. I'll put a new wax on the car. I'm filthy." That's where it comes in. You see,
Yeah.
you've got to clean the car again.
Spray it on
I get
the
this
car.
shit off the car.
Get all the, if you've just made it dirty to clean it again. You've got the excuse to clean it, and then, well, you're cleaning
All we need
it.
is
It's an excuse to actually, start using this new product. So I think that could genuinely be a thing for the future. I know using dirt would be great for testing products, but I think the way you've gone with it.
I have got one more sponsor for this week.
Go on then.
You don't know this. This is a new one. This is you forgot something. Sounds really basic, right? So in your car, you've got 2 cameras. One above the headliner, one above your head.
Yeah.
One in the boot, because you're always forgetting shopping. You're always leaving all your beer in there from Lidl's. But it's linked to the Bluetooth to your speakers. So when you go to your front door, it shouts at you. It says, "Oi, you forgot your baked beans, you prat." You have to keep the voice down. So I'm working on that. But you've got 2 cameras. So if you leave your wallet in the car, it's going to
you
find it
forgot
for
something.
you. Yeah, you forgot something. See,
Alright, okay. AI powered, I'm guessing. Yeah, okay, awesome.
I'm going to bring it.
Gentlemen from Speed 6, you guys, would you like to come
There we
and
are.
join us, please, as we very casually have a little bit of a crossover and a casual handover to you guys. It's so smooth. I love this. You're gingerly walking across the stage here. It's
Can you
awesome.
do me a favour? Give your mum 3 readings when you're finished. Because she worries about you.
Yeah. So apparently you're not allowed this microphone.
Oh, well, give it to me then.
No, I stuck it in your face. I didn't give it to this. Trust me, you like, no. Trust me, no, we're not going there. And I was going to sort out a microphone for you. It's the Fisher Price one. Because you're also one of those people. We had a crossover, very interesting crossover event with the Speed 6 guys.
This isn't an encore, you can give them finish.
I know, but while they're getting mic'd up,
We're not getting paid for this shit, you know that.
we do it because we love it.
We don't.
I don't know. Figure it out. Press buttons or something. I don't know. We had a crossover event, a crossover podcast with these guys a while back, where we're going to be talking about safety and detailing. So we split it up, and we. What do you mean? Oh yeah. Did you forget about it or something? Lovely. Where we joined them for one half of the podcast, and then we hosted the second half. So it meant that people would be listening to both of us. And that was great until we figured out why Jake's microphone wasn't working properly. Because he sounded awful. He had this microphone sat right in front of him, but he sounded terrible. Because he'd not actually worked out how to click which microphone to use. So, I feel like Jake is like the Paul of the Speed 6 podcast.
Harsh but fair.
Let's not... Is that better?
That's better.
That's better. This is the thing. This I like more. Yes. This is this. I forgot how tall Paul is, and when I met him yesterday, he stood up, and I had to get on my tiptoes to hug him. It's really annoying. Are you guys sorted? No, of course not.
He's just touching that.
Again.
I'm going to rush to get my stuff from the GT boys.
Rush. Why? You think they're going to sell out?
Stampede, mate.
Everyone, what is it you're trying to buy?
I can't tell you that.
Oh, come on. I was going to tell everyone to run over and buy it before you go.
Tyres here.
Right, we're going to hand you over to the Speedtix. Thank you very much for your time listening to us. We really do appreciate that. And we'll catch up.
Yeah, thanks very much. If anyone's got any questions, come up and speak to us. If you, God forbid, want a selfie, why do anyone want to have a picture taken with me? I don't know. Scare your kids or something, I'm not too sure. Come up and see us. We're going to be mingling around over there, winding up the Speed6 boys. Over to you guys.